The day that envelope arrived, with my name printed bold across the top, I felt my knees weaken, because I knew I had never applied for anything. It was a thin government-issued envelope, the kind that looks official enough to make your heart thump before you even open it. I remember standing by my front door, the late afternoon sun cutting across the tiles, turning the dust in the air into gold. My hand shook just a little as I slit the top open with my finger. Inside was a letter, crisp, clean, and carrying words that would unravel my entire sense of trust. Your application for the Small Business Development Grant has been approved. Please confirm project initiation under your registered name. My registered name. My name. Not my nephew's. For a minute, I just stood there, my thumb brushing over the embossed seal, the smell of ink and paper mixing with the faint spices from the pot of lentils simmering behind me. My head swam with confusion. I hadn't applied for anything. I hadn't even considered starting a business. I wasn't planning any project. And yet the government believed I was. I sank into the kitchen chair, staring at the letter as if it might explain itself. Instead, it stayed silent, but my mind didn't. I thought of my nephew, Denial. His shy smile. The way he had come to me 2 months ago, asking if I could just help him understand a few government forms. He said he was working on a project, a small vocational center for youth in our neighborhood. I'd been so proud of him, so eager to help. After all, he had always been close to me, closer than my own brother ever managed with him. But now the realization crept up my spine like cold water. Had he used my name? No, I told myself immediately. No, Denial wasn't like that. He was quiet, respectful, hardworking. A little impulsive, maybe, but not deceitful. I refused to even let the suspicion form properly. I folded the letter and pressed it between my hands, breathing in slowly. There had to be some misunderstanding. Maybe they mixed up names. Maybe someone typed the wrong ID number. Government offices made mistakes all the time, didn't they? But as I stared at the paper, my reflection curved faintly in the shiny surface of the table. I felt a tremor in my chest, the tiniest crack of doubt. Before all this, before official letters and cold fear, my life was quiet, predictable in a comforting way. I worked from home, doing online tutoring for school children. My days were made of small routines. The soft whir of the ceiling fan, the aroma of cardamom tea at sunrise, the laughter of neighborhood kids playing cricket in the street below. My world wasn't big, but it was honest. Family was my soft spot, especially Denial. His mother, my elder sister, Rahila, had passed when he was just 7. Breast cancer. Quick, merciless. After that, he became a kind of shared responsibility among the family, but somehow, he gravitated to me. Maybe because I was the least chaotic among the siblings, maybe because I listened, maybe because he felt safe. He used to come over every weekend to eat whatever dish he claimed tasted better at your place, Kala. And even though I pretended not to care, the truth is, I treasured those visits. They softened the loneliness I rarely admitted to anyone. In the last year, though, he'd been trying hard to make something of himself. He talked about starting a small skill center to teach basic computer literacy to teens who couldn't afford coaching classes. He said he wanted to give them a chance, something more than I ever had. His words were sincere, his eyes steady. So when he asked for help with those forms, sitting at my dining table, tapping his pen anxiously, I didn't hesitate. I made us tea, sat beside him, and explained the lines he didn't understand. He filled in things quickly, sliding pages under my hand one after another. I never imagined he'd slip my information in. I never imagined he'd need to. We had always trusted each other. That evening, after the grant approval letter arrived, the house felt unusually loud. Every tick of the clock seemed to echo. The spoon clattering in the pot felt harsh. Even the call to prayer drifting from the mosque down the road felt sharper in my ears. It was as though my senses were trying to warn me of something my heart wasn't ready to accept. I placed the letter on the table and stared at it again. The government didn't mix up ID numbers. Not without a matching name. Not without a matching address. And the address was mine too. My throat tightened. I reached for my phone. My thumb hovered over Denial's name. He would explain. He always explained. He was the kind of boy who couldn't hide a lie even if he tried. But before I pressed call, a memory flashed suddenly, one I hadn't thought of until that moment. That day, when he'd brought the forms, there was a moment, small, insignificant, when he had gently tilted the papers toward himself when I got up to grab the sugar from the counter. Not suspiciously, just a little too quickly, a little too protective. And when he had left that day, he hugged me. A tight, lingering hug. He said, "Kala, you're always there for me. Thank you." His voice had trembled just slightly, but I'd assumed it was just stress. Now, sitting alone in the kitchen under the dim light, I wondered if it had been guilt. The thought made my stomach twist. I stood up and paced, the cool floor tile pressing against my bare feet. No, I needed clarity, not paranoia. I picked up the letter again, checking the ID number printed beneath my name. It was mine. My heart sank to my knees. And then, almost as if fate wanted to wound me further, my phone buzzed. It was a message. From Denial. "Kala, did anything come in the mail today? Something important might be arriving. Please let me know if it does." I read it twice. My fingers trembled. He knew. He was waiting for it. I lowered the phone slowly, feeling something inside me fold. Not dramatically, not loudly, just quietly, like paper creasing under pressure. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't oversight. This was betrayal. And I wasn't ready for the storm it would bring. I didn't cry the day Denial finally admitted everything. Maybe it's because by then, my heart had already been scraped hollow by the last few weeks. The government interviews, the questioning, the paperwork to clear my name. Maybe it was because I'd spent too many evenings sitting alone on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall and wondering how someone you raise with your own hands can still choose a path that cuts you open. But more than anything, I think I was simply tired. Tired of carrying the weight of everyone else's needs. Tired of being the aunt who always said yes. Tired of loving people who only remembered me when they needed something. When he finally came to my house, shoulders slumped, eyes red, hands shaking, he looked like a child again. Not the young man who had crossed my trust so deeply. "Kala," he whispered, standing at my doorway like he wasn't sure he deserved to come inside. I messed up. I messed everything up. I stepped aside and let him enter. I wasn't cruel, not even after everything. That's not who I am. He sat at the dining table, the same place where he had completed those forms, stolen my identity in ink, smiled at me like he was doing nothing wrong. But today he couldn't even lift his eyes. The silence pressed on both of us until he finally broke. "I didn't know what else to do," he said, voice cracking. "No one believed in my project. They kept saying I was too young, too inexperienced. They wouldn't even let me apply without a guarantor. And I thought you'd trust me. You'd want to help." "Help," I whispered, my hands tightening around the edge of the chair. "Denial, help is something you ask for, not something you steal." He winced, pressing his forehead to his palms. The boy I once fed by hand now looked like someone carrying a lifetime of regret. "I told myself I'd fix it before you found out," he said. "I thought I'd pay it back. I don't know what I thought. I was stupid." I let out a long breath. A breath I'd been holding for months. "Do you know what hurt me most?" I asked softly. Not the investigation. Not the humiliation. Not the fear of being blamed for a crime I didn't commit. I paused, my voice trembling. "What hurt the most was that you looked me in the eyes, and you lied. You used me. And after everything I did for you, you still didn't trust me enough to ask." His tears fell then, slow, heavy, silent. "Kala, I'm sorry," he whispered. "If you never forgive me, I'll understand." I looked at him, really looked at him. The boy I once walked to school, the boy whose nightmares I soothed, the boy who brought me flowers every Mother's Day because he didn't have a mother of his own. How do you stop loving someone like that? You don't. But you learn to love them with boundaries. "I forgive you," I said quietly. His head jerked up, surprised. "But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences." He nodded slowly, accepting the truth like a bitter medicine. "I've already told the authorities everything," he murmured. "They know it was me. They know you're innocent." "I know," I said. "They called me." We sat in silence again. This time not from anger, but from the weight of acceptance. Finally, I pushed a folder toward him. These are your next steps, I said. Financial counseling, legal recommendations, and a repayment plan. His eyes widened. You're still helping me? I gave him a small, sad smile. Helping, I said, is different from enabling. He bowed his head and nodded, tears sliding down his cheeks. When he left that evening, he paused at the door, just like he had when he arrived. Kala, he said softly. Yes. I don't deserve you. No, I said gently. But you can learn to deserve yourself. In the weeks that followed, things settled. Not back to what they once were, but into something quieter, more cautious. The government cleared my name officially. My reputation remained intact. Neighbors who had whispered now nodded respectfully when they saw me. And the feeling of walking with my head high again. That was a kind of peace I didn't know I needed. As for denial, he faced his consequences. Not prison, thank God, but community service, mandatory counseling, and a long-term repayment plan that would follow him until he cleared every last rupee he'd misappropriated. He didn't run from it. He didn't hide. He took the punishment with humility. The kind that only comes when life teaches a lesson hard enough to reshape you. Some evenings he still comes by. Quietly. Respectfully. He sits at the edge of my porch, sipping tea. Careful not to cross boundaries that were once invisible. Our relationship isn't broken, just bruised. And bruises heal with time. As for me, I learned something too. That love without boundaries becomes a doorway for people to walk through you. That even those you raise can hurt you. That forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over bitterness. And that sometimes, the people we save end up saving a part of us we didn't know was tired. Life has a way of circling back with lessons you didn't ask for, but needed all the same. I share this story not to paint my nephew as a villain, but to remind you, sometimes betrayal comes from the people who sit closest to your heart. And sometimes, love and boundaries must coexist so you don't lose yourself trying to save someone else. Now I want to ask you, gently honestly, if someone you love betrayed your trust, would you choose punishment, forgiveness, or something in between? Tell me in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, more truth, more healing, more hard-earned lessons, you know what to do. Subscribe, follow, support, and stay safe with your heart.